Hey guys, it's been a little while since I decided to make a cooking video. I decided to show you guys how to make vegan sabji or vegan keema. And I've made this a couple of times before and I feel like it comes very close to the real thing. So I figured I would just go ahead and show you guys how I went. I'm gonna be cooking it tonight, so I figured I would show you guys how I'm making it. So I'm gonna show you the ingredients that I'm gonna be using. I'm using red onions, 3 different kinds of peppers, green, orange, and red peppers. I just like to make my sabjis very colorful, so I figured this would be a good way to, add some brightness to it. I'll also be adding a lot of seasoning. I don't have my favorite spice jar, but I added everything into one container for right now. I have salt, black pepper, mango powder, chaat masala. I do have some chaat masala here. And also a couple of other spices as well. Feel free to add anything that you like. If you like a little extra flavor, add a little more. So I have that. I'm gonna be using a lot of garlic and ginger, and this is the main ingredient for what I'm gonna be making my vegan keema with, and that is seitan. It's basically like tofu. I mean, at least that's what I think it is, but it comes very close to the real thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to make this. So I'm going to start off by chopping the onions, and I think you guys have a pretty decent view. I'm going to chop the onions pretty small just so I can get them to, fry nicely. And I'm going to use, for let's say a serving, if you want to make a serving for maybe like a family of 4, 1 red onion is usually good. You don't want to use too many because you will kind of overpower the flavor of the sabji, because at the end of the day, it's not meat. So the flavor is... The thing about seitan is that it takes on a lot of the flavor around it. So like if it's, being cooked with onions, it's being cooked with like any other types of flavors, it tends to take that flavor on. So you don't want it to be too oniony, I guess. But I mean, then again, that's up to you too. I prefer it to be a little bit more of a mild flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop this up nicely and get them into nice small chop pieces. So you notice I like them pretty small. I'm not the neatest chopper, so I apologize if this is a little bit hard to see or a little bit hard to follow, but this should be okay. So this is what I have for the red onions. So 1 whole red onion should be good. Now I want to start cutting the peppers. So I want to do, for let's say the same amount of serving, I might do half of each of these peppers since I'm doing 3 of them for the color. So that should give you a good gauge, maybe like a big bell pepper and a half, maybe 2 bell peppers if you're really into, having more of them in there. But I think this should be good for this sabji. So if you notice, I'm cutting these a little bit on the smaller side because again, a little bit bigger than the onions because I do want the color and the pieces to be in there. I like it to be a little more crispy. If you want it to be a little bit softer, you can cut them a little bit smaller as well. So I don't know if you guys can see how much I'm cutting of each. This was already half, so I'm cutting the rest of this. And so about that much, if you can see how much I have of the peppers. Maybe I'll do a little bit more actually. So just about that much. And I'm doing 3 servings of this, 3 different types. So again, maybe like a bell pepper and a half to 2 bell peppers for a serving of 4, 1 whole red onion should be good. And I feel like it's just the right balance of flavor for when you want to cook it with the seitan. So this is a pretty big pepper, so maybe I'll cut a little bit less than half of this, but maybe a little less, almost the same actually. About that much. Because the main part of the sabji outside of the keema is going to be the vegetables. So you want to make sure that there's a lot of them and, it's nice and healthy. So, and that's a big thing. A lot of my cooking tends to be very healthy. So I tend to prefer a lot of veggies. Maybe I'll do a little more. And feel free to use any color peppers you like. I mean, really, I'm just doing the different colors. Like, people have sometimes actually asked me, is there a reason why you use different peppers? I know I mentioned this a couple of times. I just really like doing the extra color. I just feel like it adds a nice it makes it look pretty at the end of the day, you know? Makes it look good for Instagram, I guess. And kind of, I always feel that if something looks good, it's almost more appetizing. So, keep that in mind, and you can get creative. So I'm going to say that that's actually good for the peppers. Maybe I'll do a little more. And you notice I'm not like giving too much mind to like how I'm cutting it, because at the end of the day, I feel like it looks, for me personally, I think it looks better when everything's like a smaller, when it's just kind of like a different piece. And, it just, I feel like it looks better when not everything looks exactly the same. I think it looks more authentic, I guess you could say. So I'm about to cut the red peppers. These are big peppers, by the way. I don't know what's going on with these, but typically they're smaller. So you notice I'm cutting a little bit less than half of that. And you can already tell from the dish that from the colors, it looks very pretty. You could also do this with one color pepper as well. I mean, if you want to do something quick, like let's say you get out of work late and you want to do something quick, you don't have to, spend all your time cutting all different types of peppers. You can just do it with one. To me, it all tastes the same. So especially if you're just cooking for yourself, that's okay too. If you want to cook for other people, maybe do all the different colors. It all tastes the same, it all tastes good, and it's all healthy. You notice there's a lot of peppers and a lot of onions. This is going to be the bulk of the sabji minus the actual vegan keema seitan part. And I'm just about done with that. So you notice it's a lot of sabjis, it's a lot of onions, a lot of peppers. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a lot of garlic. I love garlic. I think I might have been Italian in a past life. That's why I like it so much. Just kidding. But I might be using, maybe I'll do about 4 of these. And I want to get them nice and small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grate them. I'm going to use the grater. I'm going to get it nice and small in there. So I'm going to do about 4 of these for, let's say, a family of 4, a portion of this size. I would say 4 is decent. You can use as much garlic as you want, really. I think this adds like nice flavor to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do about 4 of those. My Italian friends are going to love this. And I apologize, I'm a little sloppy when I do this stuff. You don't have to use your hands in this way. I think some people, they like to use those, I don't know what you call them, like those little garlic cutters or whatever. So, feel free to do whichever way you want. I personally just like to do it like this because I like it all to dissolve in the food. All right, so that is, and by the way, if I'm cooking for anybody, typically I don't use my hands, so don't need to be worried if you ever come over. I'm also going to be using some ginger because I love ginger. It adds a little bit of a spice to it. So I'm going to use I'm going to grate this, but I'm probably going to use maybe like that much. And that's just for me. I feel like too much ginger can be overpowering. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off and just grate that. I'm going to do it right into the garlic because we're going to put them in at the same time anyways. Apologize if you guys aren't getting a good view, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys everything once I'm done with this. So I went ahead and grated everything. So the garlic and the ginger. So you guys have a good gauge on how much I'm grating here. So you notice all the veggies, the onions, the garlic, and the ginger, and my spices. I'll be putting this in afterwards. Also, you can feel free to use jalapenos and things like that. I realize I don't have any with me at the moment, but if you ever want to put in fresh jalapenos, you can cut them into small pieces, maybe fry them for a second before and then put them in so they're not overpowering either when you put them into the sabji. Although if you really like spicy food, and then you can always just put them in raw, whichever way you feel, but I just like to fry them a little bit just before. I don't use a lot of butter or anything like that. So I actually use extra virgin olive oil because for me personally, I feel like it's a healthier option. So I'll be using that today. And I'll be using the vegan chorizo seitan, made out of seitan. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the oven. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this over. I apologize. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the oven here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it to there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and put it to like a medium heat. I think that is going to be key here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put in about, you don't wanna overkill with olive oil, maybe just like that much for now, right? Maybe just like a couple of squirts or maybe like a couple of spoonfuls. I don't like to put in too much. You don't wanna overpower the taste either, but just enough so that it doesn't stick, and it'll be good to keep it a little bit like on the wetter side if you prefer more wet sabji. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting in, actually I'm gonna get you guys a better view here. I'm gonna go ahead, there we go. I think this should be better, and I apologize if the view isn't the best, so I'm gonna be showing you guys what I'm doing here, and then I'll bring it up in a second. So I am going to start off by putting in all the veggies and the onions, because those are the hardest and those are gonna take the longest to cook. So I'm gonna let this warm up for a second. Actually, it's pretty warm right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and put all the veggies in, and I'll show you what this looks like in a second. I'm gonna do that. Be careful for any splashes or anything. If you cook a lot like me, you'll know how much you hate getting splashed by oil. So just be mindful of that. And I'm putting in all the onions as well. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys in a second what this looks like. So this is what it looks like, and you can tell already how pretty it looks just from the colors, and it tastes good. And it's gonna taste even better once I put everything else in there. So you wanna let that go. I'm actually gonna turn up the heat just a little bit. And I'm gonna put in just a tiny bit more olive oil. I can tell it's a little bit dry, so I'm gonna do a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and do this sabji. So you can tell already how good this looks, and you can already tell it's healthy. It's all, so far, all I've used is olive oil, veggies, and onions. I mean, this alone can be a meal if you put something in there as well for protein. If you just wanted to take it as like a stir fry, you could do that as well. But this is how I'm gonna be starting. And you can let that simmer for a little bit, because you wanna let the veggies soften up just a little bit, because you don't want it to be too hard either. I can already tell it smells great so far. So now what you want to do is you want to take the garlic and the ginger. Now keep in mind, this is also a time where if you wanted to put in tomatoes, you could also put in tomatoes as well. I decided to not opt for that today, but if you like a little extra flavor, you can always do that as well. So let me go ahead and get you guys in a good position. So when you're putting in about, again, that much garlic and ginger for anyone who didn't see it before, I'm gonna go ahead and just put that right on top of the veggies. You wanna that's gonna add all the extra flavor in there as well. And you're gonna be, around this time when you make the sabji like this, you'll notice that things will start to simmer a little bit more, everything will start to get a little bit softer. And this is when like the garlic and the ginger will start to dissolve a little bit as well. So let me go ahead and get this. See, after just adding that, you can notice that everything's starting to dissolve in there a little bit. You can already tell it's smelling great right now. I'm excited to eat this, guys. So now I am going to be putting in some spices. Now, for those of you that have watched my videos before, you know how much I love this spice jar that I always use. Unfortunately, I don't have that with me today, so what I did was I went ahead and put in all my spices in this little jar. I'm gonna end up using most of it, but I think I was mentioning this before, but I put in salt, black pepper, turmeric, mango powder, and chaat masala. So, I mix it all in there, but you feel free to add those again, if you like any other flavors, anything like that, this would be the time to add them right now. I feel that these flavors tend to go the best together. So I'm gonna go ahead and put most of this in here. And for a gauge for anyone that likes measurements or anything like that, I put in about a spoonful of everything. And then I just add a little more black pepper after that. So, you know, you can go ahead and add it, and I'll show you guys what this looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and add this. If you like a lot of spice, you can always add more. Again, always go with the jalapenos and things like that. I'm not doing that tonight, but you can always feel free to do that. And you can just sort of mix it right in there. If you want to do the jalapenos, you can fry them separately and put them in there. If you really like spicy, you can just throw them right in there. Or add them afterwards even. This is where all the real flavor is gonna come in. And you want to let that simmer for a while as well. You know, you don't want it to be too raw when you put in the seitan, because the thing about seitan is, you know, it cooks relatively quickly. I believe it's 5 to 7 minutes. So if you put it in too quickly, you're going to end up with some raw veggies in seitan, which would also taste good. It just wouldn't be a subji. It would be more like a stir fry. So you want to let that simmer for a little bit. And sometimes what some people like to do, if they want to make it a little more wet, you can put in a little bit of water in here as well. Just like a little bit to make it a little bit more liquidy. But you notice it looks like it's starting to get a little bit softer. I'm going to put this on a little bit higher heat. Now, the cool thing about vegan food is that it actually cooks, for me personally, I find that it actually cooks very quickly. You know, because, I mean, it just does. So this, I just want to confirm that it was 5 to 7 minutes. And yeah, it's 5 to 7 minutes for this particular one anyways. So, you know, you sort of have to gauge how long you think it's going to take for the veggies to cook for. So if you feel like maybe it'll take another 5 to 7 minutes for the veggies to cook, that's the perfect time to put in the seitan, which I would say is right about, maybe in like a minute, I would say. And I'll show you what the veggies look like before I determine when it's right to put this in there. And this is also going to help, like putting it directly into the veggies. You know, some people I know, they like to cook their seitan separately before they put other things in there. I personally like to cook them together because I find that it soaks up a lot more flavor. It really gets that garlic, ginger, spices, all that flavor is soaked into there, and it really comes out nicely. So I'm going to show you what this looks like for anyone who hasn't seen this before. Actually looks really cool. This is what it looks like in the packet. Let me go ahead and cut that open. I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. The fun thing about this is that this is vegan food that, honestly, the vegan food that I've seen that looks and feels and tastes the most like meat, in my opinion. So for anyone that's looking to become like a vegan or vegetarian, might find it difficult, this is the way to go. So you notice, I'll show you what it looks like coming out. At least this particular one, chorizo. So it's supposed to taste like chorizo sausage, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and show you up close what this looks like. Looks like this.